Hey, hello everyone. So I am here to do a quick wrap-up review for you. As quick as I can make it because I have a few things to say about these books, because despite the fact that I read 3 very small books and finished one book, which I kind of read over like probably 200 pages, so I'm just going to count it as a flipping book. We're just going to say I read 4 books. Despite the fact that some people, they're reading like 15 books and everything, which is excellent. I have nothing against that. If you could do that, that is awesome. More reading is always good. Hopefully I'll get to Beyond 4 one of these months. Hopefully with Paul and Ryan's readathons that I'm doing, I can keep up with them and I'll have more than 5 books. So most of these books that I read, well, actually 3 of them were for the reading rush. So there were poems like Animal main characters and a book with purple on the cover, etc. If you've done the reading rush, you know that. So I never make all the books. I'm lucky I made 3. And that's because I did them on audio and they were very small, like 2 hours worth. But you know what? To me, a book is a book. And I don't care if something is children's or middle grade or adult or YA or whatever. I think if a story is good, a story is good. And you can learn from many different age ranges and genres and subgenres and etc. And many different formats. And I think I learned that sometimes things are more than what you think they are. And there's genre bending and etc. And yeah, a whole bunch of good stuff. So what the hell did I read before I ramble on? Well, the first book I finished for the reading rush was a Goosebumps book called Deep Trouble, and it is about 2 kids named Billy and Sheena who are visiting their marine biologist uncle, and there's a whole thing with mermaids and monsters and people searching for this mermaid, and it was fun to listen to. Goosebumps is kind of hard to talk about without giving it away because they're very, very small. None of them have ever reached 300 pages, I don't think. They're quite small, and a basic synopsis is really all that you can give in those kind of books, because they're meant to be spooky fun, right? They're kind of equivalent to well, no, I can't say that. I was going to say they're equivalent to the Halloween episodes of The Simpsons, but those get a little bit more graphic than Goosebumps, so yeah, it's a little more middle grade than that. But just know that the book was fun, and I'd listen to it again. One day, when I do my top 10, I'll probably dive more into Goosebumps and specific things about the books and why I like certain ones more than the other. But for right now, just know that Deep Trouble was about sea monsters and mermaids and 2 kids trying to figure this out with their uncle. The next book that I had read was another middle grade book, and this was for purple on the cover, and that was Crenshaw. So Crenshaw is about a boy named Jackson, and he lives with his former musician parents and his younger sister Robin. So the book opens up where Jackson thinks he sees his old imaginary friend, Crenshaw. Crenshaw is a gigantic cat. Jackson's family has fallen on hard times, and they've had hard times before, as they once had to leave their home and live in their van. So Jackson and Robin's parents, his mom has been laid off from her teaching job, and his father has been diagnosed with MS and has had to leave his more physically demanding job for a job that pays a little less than what he normally gets. So Jackson knows that something is up. He knows that his parents are concerned, that they're trying to maybe hide things from him, the possibility that he might, or they might have to once again live in their van, and they won't know what to do with their dog and some other things. And it kind of goes into those issues about kids and families that don't have a lot of money or who are struggling. And there's a part where he talks about him and his sister, how they play a thing called cereal ball, which is basically tossing cereal into things, kind of like a cereal form of basketball or something, I guess you would say, to kind of take their mind off, the fact that they don't have a lot to eat, and it slows their eating and everything, so they try little tricks like that. And I like books that go into those kind of issues, because those are issues that kids actually face. Things like sick parents and hunger, and possibly leaving your friends because you can't afford the apartment even that you live in. You might have to move in with family or live in your van or such things. And I like books that... Usually books like that, I kind of like it when it is told in first person, because certain things I think are good to experience as a person, reading it as the character. I feel that it just makes a better connection. I wish in some ways that the book was a little bit longer, because it felt... I don't know if I want to say unfinished, just it felt like it could have been deeper. I would say maybe if you like Kate DiCamillo's books, the person that wrote Because of Winn-Dixie and Tiger Rising and The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Kate's books normally are quite small, but they pack an emotional punch to them. And Crenshaw was almost there. I just felt that when it got to certain points, she just didn't go deep enough into them. I like authors that, write people of all ages with their own personalities, with intellect, and ideas, And you don't have to be a genius kid in a book, but, you can be a kid or a teenager or a young adult or person in your early 20s, 30s, whatever, who has thoughts and ideas, but you don't have to be a freaking genius, And I like the fact that Jackson, had something that he wanted to be when he grew up. He had a lot on his shoulders as being the older brother, and, trying to keep his sister's hopes up, keep his own hopes up, And then there's the whole Crenshaw thing. Crenshaw, I get why the story was called Crenshaw, and, it's a cute idea, but I just wish we would have seen more of Crenshaw, because he's supposed to be the imaginary friend. And the whole thing about Crenshaw is that imaginary friends come when you need them. And they stay as long as you need them. And so, Crenshaw was almost like a side plot, really. So, yeah, I normally don't rank books by star rating, but I would probably say 3.5 to 4 stars for that one. If it would have been longer, she would have delved into more things. It would have gotten a higher rating, because it was cute. I liked the writing style. I liked that it, like I said, it touched on certain issues, but it just was a little too short for me. The next one I read or I reread actually for the reading rush, and I say reread loosely because, I don't know, I read it kind of quickly and I didn't pick up on a lot of things. But the third one is Animal Farm. Now, it kind of surprised me at first that some people, or actually quite a few people, consider Animal Farm to be a dystopian novel. And I think that's because we normally associate dystopian with people and governments. 1984, which was also written by Orwell. The Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, Divergent, The Giver was a big one. So those are all about people in dictator-like countries or utopians where they think the world is great, but in reality it sucks. But upon reading, you can see why it fits into this. If you can expand your imagination a little bit and, you know, go into the idea of animals running their own government and animals taking advantage of other animals, much in the way humans do, to both animals and each other, it definitely fits in the category. So Animal Farm is a book about animals who, after a speech by one of the very old pigs about how man mistreats them and takes away their children and just uses them for profit and then slaughters them when they're no longer useful, they run their owner out and rename it Animal Farm. So at first everything is pretty okay. The animals are working together, no animal is killing other animals, no one is selling eggs or milk or taking anyone's young away from them. But there are rules established by the pigs after old Major, the one who gave the speech, dies. Because the pigs kind of declare themselves as their leaders. So what happens is they make a set of rules such as no animal should sleep in a bed, no animal should kill another animal, no animal should wear clothes, etc. And at first everyone is following these rules, but as time goes on, you start to notice that the pigs give themselves special privileges. They start to twist the rules that they themselves have written. So when they are caught breaking their own rules, they have sort of an excuse for it. And at first it starts out that the pigs need to sleep in beds because they have the know-how, the intellect and everything to be the leaders. They are better at crafting ideas and such things, and they convince the animals sort of like following or lower intelligence of this. So as the book goes on, the pigs get more and more privileges, where some of the other animals are made to work more, and two of the pigs kind of go head to head, and they kind of conspire against each other. They start making up lies and turning other animals against them. And it's a very short book, but it's very good, and it's kind of interesting to see this in an animal perspective, knowing that he based it on real life people, I believe, such as like Hitler and Stalin and other people. But of course, you can apply this to, you know, a lot of other dystopians that you see nowadays. A lot of things in real life that's going on, because we often compare dystopians to things going on in our government or other countries' government, etc. And I find it interesting that a lot of people often compare some of the dystopians after it, or dystopians now, to his other book, 1984. But, you know, in some of the books that, you know, I have read, I can see a bit of Animal Farm in them. Like, other than Battle Royale, people are very quick to sometimes bring up 1984 when you talk about the Hunger Games, but I mean, it's there, definitely, with a lot of the surveillance and everything. But a lot of those other books like that, you know, I can see some forms of Animal Farm in them. The thing about believing certain people are above the other, and that certain people deserve more treatment, and convincing people and your followers and etc. of that. It's a very good book. I highly recommend it. It's different. Like I said, it's a different way of looking at things. The final book that I'm going to be talking about is Challenger Deep by Neal Shusterman. So, I read his book Unwind, which is a part of a series, and I have not finished Unwind, but I really liked Unwind. So I was reading and watching reviews for this book, and somebody brought up that his writing is atmospheric, and it really is. And I love Challenger Deep so much. I read it on my Nook, and, you know, I'm kind of glad that I got to read it slowly so I can absorb everything about it, because it is very atmospheric, but also quite sad in a lot of ways, because a lot of people are going through what this main character is going through. So, Challenger Deep is about a 15-year-old boy named Caden Bosch, or Bosk. And basically the book is Caden's dealing with mental illness. At first we are in the real world, and then we are in Caden's imagination, where he is on this pirate ship. And it kind of goes back and forth between the real world and what's in Caden's mind, and because of certain things, such as him believing that this boy he's never talked to wants to kill him, and some of his behaviors, he ends up in a mental institution by his parents. And a lot of it's about him questioning the real world, and we're taken basically into his mind on this pirate ship that's going to Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the world. And the characters between the ship and real life, and how they kind of correspond with each other, and, you know, his him being lost basically in his own mind and in his own thoughts. And it's beautifully written. It's very imaginative, but it is supposed to be kind of an insight of what it's like to have mental illness. Now, I'm not 100% sure, because I've heard different things, but I know that a lot of it was based on Neil's son, who I believe may have schizophrenia. I could be wrong on that, but I know he has suffered from mental illness. So this wasn't just something that he randomly wrote. He got this from somebody very close to him who's had these experiences. And the illustrations that are in the book, there's a few of them, supposedly were done by his son while he was going through a lot of this. And like I said, it's beautifully written. It touches on, you know, what it's like to have mental illness, and obviously, you know, the author was able to do research since, you know, his own child dealt with this. So it's really worth the read. It's not a book that has a lot of direct character development because it's more about that issue. So if you're kind of looking for a book like that, it might not be for you. But if you want a book that I think, you know, most would consider a good mental health rep, I would recommend that one. The book didn't quite end, you know, happily the way a lot of people might want it to, but I think that's the point. The point is that it's based on things that happen to people in real life with these issues. So this review went on way too long for flipping books, but like I said, when I make reviews, I sometimes have quite a bit to say. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.